Shea Stadium, the Hollywood Bowl, the Red Square gigs in Moscow. Those are the concerts that we remember, but maybe some kind of less significant ones, I thought, might stick in his mind.
Thing where we'd show up, you're completely on your own in the van, with Neil, who later became the head of our Apple company and everything, but he was just the driver then, our roadie. Yeah. And we showed up in Stroud in the afternoon. It wasn't easy to find for Liverpool lads.
Yeah.
Stroud. Anyway, we found it and a little sound check and stuff, and then played there later in the evening. And there was hardly anyone came.
Really?
Yeah, because it was very early days and we were having to make our reputation. Nobody knew. And I remember they didn't boo us, but they threw pennies at us. There were a bunch of Teddy boys, sort of hoodlums at the back of the hall. They just sort of, didn't like us. They threw money at us. So we stopped and picked it up and then continued.
Yeah.
And they stopped throwing it once they realised it was actually going to be used by us.
Yeah, yeah.
But those kind of early gigs were quite hairy.
I bet they were.
Because you could hear yourself. When the screaming came along, it covered a multitude of sins. But at that point, if you were out of tune, you knew it. And we were. So I remember them. But I mean, obviously, like you, I remember Shea Stadium playing Red Square and stuff. But if you're looking for the offbeat, then Stroud is it.
And you were doing things like, there'd be 2 shows a night with all those kind of, I know, because my mum took me to see you at the ABC Wigan, 1964, when I was 2. It took me long thinking it would be a historic event, which of course it was for me. And I've looked back since and done the research, like you played at 6:30 and at 8:30 and, all those
I used to do that. Well, the idea was that seeing as you're in the town, try and pack in as much work as possible. I mean, we were just young working guys, and we wanted to make it worthwhile. So, you would do that. And there was a lady used to book you in Birmingham and you would do a gig, then go across town a bit, play another one.
Yeah.
And she was, very good for the fast turnover. She used to have a revolving stage. She'd pack them in. Yeah. She'd have us on, revolve, next act, revolve. But they were a little bit knackering. You didn't want to do too many of them, because it was sort of double the workload. But looking back on them, it was all a bit of fun.
I played on the radio the other night, Do You Want to Know a Secret? And I was looking up George Vocal, and I was looking up about this when it was recorded, and I noticed it was recorded in part of one 10-hour session, along with 9 other songs from Please Please Me. So basically you did 10 of the songs on Please Please Me in 10 hours. That seems unthinkable now.
Well, these days it is, but, the great thing was, it was just how people did it. So we weren't out of the ordinary. Now, I can boast about it.
Yeah.
So how hard we worked. But it was just how it was done, You did work fast. Even on later sessions, you would actually just be expected between 10:30 and 1:30 in the morning to finish 2 songs. And now I talk to guys in younger bands now, they go, what? 2 songs? I say, that'd be like Yesterday and... Nowhere Man or something, and then you have an hour break. In the afternoon, you do 2 more. By the end of the week, you had 20 songs, and it didn't seem like you were rushing it.
No.
There was a little moment in the middle of the sort of 2 songs where you check your watch and think, have we given this song too long? Are we eating into the time for the next song?
Yeah.
But you'd govern yourself, you'd time manage.
Yeah.
And you just did it. That's what was expected. Yeah. And I remember talking to George Martin and saying, God, we worked fast, didn't we, George? I say, well, how was it for you before we came along? Because obviously he was even an era before.
Sure, yeah.
He said it was fantastic. He said they used to the engineers would go direct to disc and they would ring him up when he had a band in front of him, because George used to lead a band, and he'd have the band there and he'd be in the studio and they'd just say, ring, ring. He'd pick up the thing, hello? He'd say, we're putting the record needle on now, Mr. Martin. Oh, thank you very much. Put the phone down. 1, 2, 3, do. And I said, God, I don't believe it. He said, and that was it. That was your record, that one take. I said, what happened if people got it wrong? He said they didn't. And that's how it was. Yeah. You just didn't get it wrong. Yeah. Or the other nice thing was, if we thought we got it wrong, we'd say to each other, don't tell him. Don't say anything. Yeah. I said, I've just made a mistake in the bass part, but don't tell him, because if he doesn't hear it, it's okay.
Yeah.
So there were a few of my bass parts got through, And we just, I thought it's a variation.
Yeah. And in the space of your career, to now, things like the YouTube phenomenon for Nod Your Head and the Beatles music and your music will become available on iTunes and things like that. Has that how has that changed how you think about music? Because you keep abreast with the new technology, and that's revolutionising music, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't change how I think about it, because I write a song. Not actually, I tell a lie. I was going to say I write it in the same way, but actually that is starting to change. I'm doing some work with youth. Friend of mine who used to produce me on a few things, and we're actually, some of the stuff we're coming up with now is very instant. So maybe it has had an effect. But for me, I don't mind what medium my stuff goes on, because if you remember, we were on sort of 45 vinyl when the old LPs, and then it became tape cassettes. So you make the adjustment. Now we're on cassettes. It doesn't matter. It's just how you listen to it. Then we go on to CDs. Now it's online.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just funny because when these innovations came in, we're not very high tech. George was the only high tech one in the group, because he'd been an electrician at Blackless. So he knew. He was the one who knew how to change a plug and fix an amp. But we weren't very high tech. I remember coming in for the first time we ever saw stereo setup, 2 speakers. And George Martin's there, and we said, "What's this, George? Got 2 speakers. There used to be just one in the middle." And we thought of that as the tranny on the beach.
Yeah.
We're making a record for that person listening on the tranny on the beach. Suddenly there's 2. And he goes, "It's called stereophonic." We go, "Oh, great, twice as loud." Yeah. That was our natural assumption,
Of course, yeah.
But unfortunately, it turned out not to be true.
But do you yourself, do you carry an iPod with you, and do you download? I mean, has that changed the way you experience music?
Not really.
No.
Not really. I just like what I like, and it gets in my collection. I'm listening more in the car to music, really.
Yeah.
I kind of make music a lot of the time, or I'm doing this kind of thing. So actually sitting around is. I will listen to my iPod, but it's normally in the car, so that may be a CD or something like that.
Yeah.
How I listen.
Yeah. And is music itself still as important to you, though? I mean, is it something you go back to for kind of, what does it fill up your day? Is your day all about music?
Yeah. I love it. I've always loved it since before I got into it. As a kid, I loved other people's music, and I wrote my first song when I was 14. So I was pretty keen. And then getting into the Beatles, going through Wings, going through my solo stuff. It's a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
For me and for a lot of other people. For you, for all the people who listen to radio. It's a very powerful tool. You can have people who are going through the most abject misery, but they can hear a song. I mean, All Shook Up always used to cure my headache. Yeah. Elvis Presley's All Shook Up. Yeah. I'd have a screaming headache. We put on All Shook Up, and my headache had gone. Yeah. So, I mean, that in some way symbolizes it. But I love it. So if I'm ever going through anything difficult, music is a great, great help. It's like a therapy. And when I'm not, I love it anyway. But it's powerful, powerful stuff.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I say, you'd have to carry me off screaming to stop me doing it.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, because, some people say, "Oh, do you have experience writer's block?" But it's like, no, can we write one now?
Yeah.
Because anyone got a guitar?
Yeah.
Let's do it. I'm very lucky that way, mind you. But I love it so much and think it's so powerful that it's always a pleasure for me. I've never really hit a time when it's like, oh, God, got to write another bloody song. It's like, no, it's a mystical process.
Yeah.
There'll be a black hole.
And it'll just...
And then we'll start messing around, catch an idea, ride on its back. Suddenly you've got a song and it's like, whoa.
Yeah. Do you ever think... God, not another bleeding anniversary, because now we're getting to a stage where it seems like every week there's a significant, you know what I mean? Like we've just had Sgt. Pepper. A couple, not that long ago was the Walton Fate, Boxing Day this year will be Magical Mystery Tour. Do you know what I mean? It must seem like it's not another significant epoch in rock history. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's every day is 20 years ago. You know, for me, it's like there's always some sort of thing. I must say, I don't count. So it's like I'm going, oh, is it?
Right.
It's me. That's my response. Do you know it's 40 years?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? You know.
Yeah.
But I'm getting on with it.
Sure.
And
yeah.
we were always the same then. You know, we didn't look at what we were doing in the Beatles. I mean, so much so that we were given an Oscar, a real Oscar for the music for Let It Be, the film, and none of us knew we had an Oscar. It was like, oh, really? Wow.
Waiting to be collected. Yeah.
Oh, and I happened to be in LA, so it was like, oh, that, yeah, Oscar, all right. Yeah. Now I've got it very proudly on my mantelpiece as Oscar Best, music, Let It Be. But we didn't bother with all that. It was funny, and it wasn't arrogance. It was just we were too busy
getting on with it.
We're just getting on with it. So it was like, oh no, you've won this.
Yeah.
Oh really?
Well, you couldn't have done it any other way, could you? Really? Because if you'd gone into the studio, if you'd gone into Abbey Road, and George Martin had said to you, "Right, gentlemen, this afternoon we're going to change the face of 20th century music," you probably would have thought, "Oh, are we?" Yeah. Really? So I guess you couldn't have been aware. Really.
You had to just be doing it and not thinking too much about what you were doing. And I think that gave us a sort of an edge. We were actually trying to please ourselves, which is always the best thing.
Sure.
It was like, hey, we're getting to go in the studio. Oh, we can have a fiddle about with that. We've got that backwards thing going. We'll have a go at that.
Yeah.
And then what about that new guitar? Oh, I've got that lick. What about this? And so you're always just, having fun in the studio and amusing yourself. And that turns out to be something maybe important.
Paul, thanks very much.
Cheers.